welcome back to my Flash episode review. My thoughts on tonight's episode of Flash titled Paradox. And I honestly thought this episode, it was way better than the premiere was. Just because, as I've said several times, the first episode was such a disappointment in the Flashpoint aspect of it because it was so drastically different from the source material. And I get it, there's a lot of things you can't do, but there's a lot of things they could have done. Like, they could have had, instead of Thomas Wayne Batman, they could have had Robert Queen as Green Arrow. And they could have had, a war between, Hawkman, a Thanagarians, and, the League of Assassins. I don't know. Make, to equate to, the war between the Atlanteans and the Amazonians. And then maybe even have, Firestorm be the Superman role. I saw that theory online that someone had, and I'm like, that would have made a lot of sense, because you have all those characters that you could throw into those positions, and it would have made sense. It would have made for a different Flashpoint, but overall, the same kind of story. And it was Flashpoint in name only, and everything else pretty much completely different. But going into this episode, I had a lot better expectations because, I knew it wasn't going to be Flashpoint, but I knew the repercussions of Flashpoint were going to finally kind of come to fruition. It's even affecting the Arrow universe, and that's when the scene with Barry and Felicity. It wasn't a bad scene, but anyone who's seen any of my videos in the past year or two, you guys know I absolutely hate Felicity Smoke as a character. She is the reason Arrow has gone downhill, and she is a terribly written character. Her romance with Oliver is so terrible and terribly written, terribly handled, and it ruined what used to be a good show that ultimately led to me giving up on the show after they killed off Laurel Lance. That being said, Felicity was handled pretty good in this episode. I didn't hate her. There was nothing about her to really hate, so, I didn't mind her when Barry went to go talk to her because, obviously he came back, and obviously, Joe and Iris aren't talking. We find out that Cisco's brother was killed by a drunk driver, and Cisco kind of blames Barry for not being able to go back in time and save his brother. And throughout the entire episode, we see a change in the dynamic of the team because of Barry's actions. And this episode, I think, had a lot of emotional depth to it. And I think that's one thing that, some people say that the CW is a little melodramatic sometimes. I think in this instance, we finally see Barry kind of come to terms with the mistakes he's made, especially after that great scene with him and Jay Garrick. When they go to 1998, and Jay Garrick finally said, you can't go back in time every time you want to fix a mistake. You have to be able, especially because we're not gods, we're just men. And Jay Garrick was just telling him, you need to be able to just, live with your mistakes and be able to move forward. Because that's been Barry's thing, because everyone jokes around at that, Barry just screws up the timeline time and time again, and he never learns his lesson. I think finally now, we're gonna start to see more of a mature Barry, who's not making as many mistakes. Because, it's getting tiresome to always see Barry go back in time to fix mistakes. Granted, there's some times where, it was necessary. Like in the Flash Arrow crossover last year when, Vandal Savage was essentially destroying the world. And that was obviously an instance where he had to go back in time. But then also, him going back to save his mom, which led to the events of Flashpoint, and other instances where he didn't have to. It's we've seen enough of Barry time traveling, so I hope time travel, at least with Barry, is kind of done with for now. So, or at least if we're gonna then go to the future and stop going back to the past to change things, because obviously it keeps screwing the timeline. And like Jay Garrick said, you can try to go back and fix it all you want, but it's never gonna be exactly the same. So I liked how this episode we started with so much tension with Team Flash. With Cisco being mad at Barry, Iris being mad at Joe, and also I feel by the end of the episode, it felt like the show kind of felt good again, because, after, Barry kind of came clean about, hey, this is what happened, this is a mistake I made, after we defeated Zoom, I went back in time, saved my mom, and created an alternate timeline, and now things are different here, and there's nothing I could do to change it now. And then Cisco, and then after everyone kind of talked about, their frustrations, obviously this is a different timeline, certain things are changed, like in the Arrowverse we see, John Diggle's kid isn't Sarah anymore, it's who I'm assuming is John Diggle Jr., the character we go on to see in Legends of Tomorrow in the Star City 2046 episode, or at least that's who I'm assuming. And as well as other changes, we see Tom Felton finally introduced in the show as Julian something. I'm sorry. It's the first episode with him in the show, so it's kind of hard for me to remember his name off the top of my head. But that's going to create a new interesting dynamic for Barry. Tom Felton has always kind of played like an antagonistic role in pretty much everything I've seen him in. Whether it's, obviously the Harry Potter franchise as Draco Malfoy, or even like in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, where he plays like the asshole son of like the ape keeping dude, whatever. Anyways, off topic. So I just like where this episode ended up, because I think now we can finally move forward in storytelling. And now that we have, a new villain for the season in Dr. Alchemy, he's the one Flash villain. I have almost no idea who he is. And I could Google search him later and stuff, but as of right now, I have no idea who he is, what he could potentially bring to the table. And I'm so glad that the villain of the season is not another speedster. Like, when they're bringing in Rival in the last couple of episodes with Edward Claris, he's pretty much a throwaway villain. That's all he was kind of set up to be. Like, that's why they didn't choose the best actor and they didn't write him the best. So going into that, I'm just like, okay, like he can be a speedster. That's fine as long as he's not like the main villain, and he wasn't. I thought bringing him back was kind of cool though. His fight with Barry throughout the city was kind of cool, and Barry ultimately stopped him. And then their second fight, when Alchemy came in and helped Rival, and then Cisco came in, and now we know that Cisco's creating of his suit for Vibe. And I'm really excited about that. But at the same time, in the comics, he doesn't have like a robotic suit for his powers. They kind of just come naturally to him. And I've always liked Vibe's look. I like Vibe's new 52 look from the comics. And I hope they stick with that. But unfortunately, I doubt they will. Or maybe they'll have some aspects of it. But yeah, it's hard to tell where they're going to go with Cisco at this point. Considering they've been like slowly giving us more of Vibe and less of Cisco Ramon. So again, I'm curious to see where that goes. What else is there? Sorry, I'm kind of like rambling, going all over the place. Usually I keep my thoughts organized, and well, they aren't as organized tonight. Sorry about that. Let's see what else, because I've touched on pretty much everything. Oh, one big thing. We finally find out on this, because of Barry affecting the timeline, Caitlin Snow is a metahuman, and she has ice powers. So she's probably going to become Killer Frost in the timeline finally, because in last season they explicitly said that Caitlin wasn't a metahuman, but obviously with the events of Flashpoint and Barry changing everything, we come to find out that she has powers now. So that's I think that they can finally start doing more with Caitlin as a character, because I think she's been the one character besides using her as Killer Frost from Earth 2 last season. They haven't done much with Caitlin other than have her be a love interest for other characters, and I think that's sad, because Danielle Panabaker, I like her as an actress. I think she's good in the role. I think she's been good in everything I've seen her in, and I want them to give her more to work with, and I wanted to get more of a dynamic character from her, and it looks like we're going in that direction, especially with the tease they gave it towards the end of this episode. And I thought Iris in this episode was amazing. Finally seeing her and Barry come together, and no more timeline mess ups, no more, again, erasing kisses, and no more whiny Barry. They are finally together. West Allen is finally happening. I'm really excited about that, because I think, and some people have said this, and I think it's completely stupid. I think that Iris and Barry, or at least Candice Patton and Grant Gustin, have really great chemistry together, and I fall in love with Iris more and more every week. And she was a character who I didn't love to begin with. I've been straight up with that before. I made a whole, and then now I'm at a point where Iris is like my second favorite character in the show now, and I want nothing but good things to happen to her and happen with Barry. And I'm really excited. I'm excited for their relationship, and normally I'm not this giddy about like relationship stuff, but I don't know what it is about Iris and Barry that just makes me have like this really dorky smile on my face. Well, because I think, again, they have great chemistry, and Candice Patton is a really great actress, and she's beautiful as well, so that makes it better. But Nothing really bothered me much in this episode, other than like the cheesy lines that kind of came from Rival at times, and Alchemy looking a little weird. Yeah, I thought this episode again had a lot of emotional depth to it. Creating a lot of new tension between the team that ultimately was resolved by the end. But I thought it was an interesting dynamic with Barry coming back to the team kind of being fractured. And now it's funny now seeing Wally so perfectly integrated into the team. It's just funny because like he was the one who kind of like felt the most normal and least affected by the events of Flashpoint, and I just thought that was interesting. And when one thing too with Dr. Alchemy, when earlier in the episode he was talking about when preparing for whatever's coming. I don't know what that's going to be, if that's going to be kind of leading up to, the Dominators coming in for the 4-way crossover between Supergirl, Flash, Arrow, and Legend of Tomorrow, or if that's something bigger, something more cataclysmic, more universe-ending rather than just, another speedster. And with that, when he said that, and then Barry kind of reiterated that to the team, when Alchemy said, everyone who had powers in Flashpoint is going to have power, he's going to make them have powers again. Does that mean that Wally's gonna become Kid Flash again? I certainly hope so. Because I know Jesse's gonna have speed soon. At least from what we've seen in the previews and stuff for next week's episode. Or at least I think it's next week's episode. Well, they released a promo last week showing with her and Barry gonna have like speed training and stuff like that. So Jesse Quick's gonna have her powers. So does that mean Wally's gonna have his powers eventually? Is he gonna become Kid Flash again? I certainly hope so, because I really like Kenan Lonsdale as Wally. He's not exactly the Wally West from the comics and animated series, whether it's Teen Titans or Young Justice or whatever. But I think he fits the role really well, considering what this show is. So, with that being said, I think that's going to be it for me in this episode. So, what did you guys think of this episode? Did you guys like it as much as I did? Did you guys like it more than the premiere? Or did you guys have issues with it? So sign your thoughts in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. I review all the other superhero shows, minus Arrow. So, obviously, Supergirl on Mondays, Flash on Tuesdays, Legend of Tomorrow on Thursdays. And I review Star Wars Rebels on Saturdays if you guys want to check out those reviews, if you guys watch that show. And I'll also have trailer reviews and movie reviews coming out within the coming months. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, have a good one.